So you know that feeling when you're applying for a credit card and you're looking forward to getting the bonus and you're putting in all your information and then you're reviewing your information and you click the submit button and then you see that screen where it's like, we are processing your application, please wait for 60 seconds. And you wait and you wait and you wait and your palms get a little sweaty and then the page refreshes and it says, we cannot give you an instant decision at this time. Please wait for a letter in the mail within 7 to 10 business days. Yeah, that feeling. It kind of sucks. There are very few things more anticlimactic than doing your research on a credit card, figuring out why it's going to be the right fit for you, looking forward to that sign-up bonus, and then applying but not being approved. So in this video, let's talk about a few things you should do if you don't get that instant approval or if you happen to get declined on the first pass. There's always ways to try to push the application through, and even if you aren't successful in getting that approval in the end, you should always consider some alternative strategies or other credit cards as you wait in the meantime to apply again sometime down the line and try to get that approval in the future. Do me a favor and hit the like button down below just as the video is starting out. Not only does that help with the video's performance on the YouTube algorithm, but also word on the street is it helps your chances of getting approved for your next credit card application. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Before we talk about what to do if you get declined for a credit card, let's first go over some of the more common reasons why you might not get that instant approval, because there's really quite a variety of different reasons why that might be the case. The first category largely boils down to some kind of error or hiccup or step that requires verification along the credit card approval process. Maybe there was a line in your address that didn't exactly match what was on your credit file with the credit bureaus, or maybe you had accidentally mistyped some of the information before submitting. I know that's happened to me in the past. I accidentally once included my own birth date on an application for my dad's card, and that really messed up the whole approval process for sure. So when stuff like that happens, typically the application goes into a pending state, and then either you need to call the credit card company, or more commonly, the credit card company calls you in order to verify the information, make sure that you are the one who had submitted the application, and then it goes into the assessment process and actually decides whether you get approved or declined. So that's the situation with pending applications. Now the other outcome is that you actually straight up got declined for the card. And when that happens, typically the credit card issuer has pulled your credit file successfully. They've assessed the health of your credit file, your credit score, all the factors that go into your credit file, and they've decided that you don't meet their lending requirements, whether it's to issue a new card or to issue you additional credit if you're an existing customer, and so unfortunately you've been declined for the card. And if you've been declined, well, this is where you should not take no for an answer, and you should begin what's known as the reconsideration process in order to try to push through your application and get that approval in the end. Now, the first thing you should do is to wait for the official letter that says that you've been declined to arrive in the mail, because if you give the credit card issuer a call before you get the letter, then you'll just be told wait for the letter to arrive to find out why you've been declined. Now, after you get the letter in the mail, typically it's not going to say the exact reason why you've been declined. Instead, it'll list out a couple of possible reasons, and then there's going to be a phone number that you're invited to call if you have any questions. And that's the number that you're going to call to begin the reconsideration process. This is your opportunity to directly address any factors on your credit file that you think might have affected the outcome of the application, and to convince the credit issuer why you think those factors aren't such a big deal. For example, if you have a bunch of recent inquiries on your credit file, maybe because you were applying for a bunch of cards trying to get the bonuses, but you think that the issuer might have declined you for that reason because they think that the inquiries represents credit-seeking behavior, then you might say something like, well, I've just been trying to organize my finances recently, trying to find out what the best credit card is for me, and so that's why I've applied for a few different credit cards recently. I'm not actually trying to seek a bunch of new credit. Or alternatively, if you've had high utilization on your credit accounts in recent months, maybe because you were doing a bunch of manufactured spending, then you might say something like, well, actually, we've done renovations on our home recently, so that's why there's been a spike in our spending volumes on these credit cards, and that's why there's high utilization right now. It's not typical spending volume. I would expect that to decrease in the future, so I hope you're not declining me because of my high utilization. And after explaining those mitigating factors, you would say something like, so given all that, can we please resubmit the application for another review or a reconsideration? And then it typically takes another couple of business days for that reconsideration to be complete. You'll be informed either over the phone or through email or through another letter in the mail what the outcome was, whether the reconsideration was successful and you were approved for the card, or eventually after another review, they still stuck by their original decision to decline you on this application. There's never a guarantee that a reconsideration will be successful, but by calling in and explaining as many mitigating factors on your credit file as possible, you're giving yourself the best chances of eventually getting that approval. Now, another tip that's kind of along the same lines is that if you've been declined for a credit card, another way to do the reconsideration would be to actually visit a physical bank branch. Obviously, if the bank actually has branches, so American Express wouldn't work for this. Now, if you do have that existing relationship with a banker or a financial services manager at the branch, then they can also help you push the application through and oftentimes, understand your mitigating factors and advocate on your behalf for why you should be approved for this card instead of declined. Personally, I've done the reconsideration process countless times over the years, and I'd say that I was able to push for the successful approval at the end about half of the time, or maybe just over half of the time. Some of the issuers that I've been particularly successful with include MBNA, where I've been able to ask them to split off the credit limits for my credit accounts instead of issuing me new credits in order to push through a new application, as well as CIBC, where I've been able to visit the branch, speak to my local banker at the branch, and ask him to advocate on my behalf, push through the application, especially in the case of CIBC's business cards, which is often difficult to get back when I was a sole proprietorship. I've also been successful with the reconsideration process with some of the US credit cards issued by Chase. Now, Chase typically likes to see at least 12 to 18 months of credit history in order to approve you for your first card. And oftentimes when you apply as somebody who has relatively new credit history, they'll decline you the first time around. And so in my case, I got declined the first and second time I had applied for a Chase Sapphire Preferred. On the third time, they still thought my credit account was too new, but I did reconsideration. I said, I've had this credit file for 18 months now. I have like a couple of American Express cards that I've been paying off on time and using responsibly. Please reconsider because I've demonstrated responsible usage here. And then they reconsidered and approved me for my first Chase Sapphire Preferred. So that's the gist of the reconsideration process. You should always try to do a reconsideration if you get declined. But the hard truth is, sometimes, even after reconsideration, you still end up getting declined. And so the question is, what do you do in that case? Well, there's a few different things to consider here. First of all, just because you got declined on the application doesn't mean that a member of your household or somebody else on your entourage of credit card enthusiasts also will get declined. In fact, there's a fair chance that they'll get approved. And so if it's a time-sensitive offer and you really want that sign-up bonus, consider applying with a fellow member of your household or your team, say player 2 or player 3. Everybody's going to have different credit files and different levels of credit health, and so especially if your fellow players don't necessarily have the same issues on their credit files that you think might have contributed to your application being declined, then they actually might have a better chance of approval and of earning you this sign-up bonus that you've been craving from this credit card. And if this credit card in question isn't necessarily time sensitive, if it's just a card that you feel like picking up in the long run but you're not necessarily getting it urgently, then the final solution is to wait a little while, typically 3 months, before applying again and trying again to get the credit card. 3 months is generally the waiting period that's advised by the credit card issuers themselves before submitting a new application, because otherwise it might just get counted as a duplicate application and it might get declined straight away again. Now, during this waiting period, it makes sense to consider other credit card applications as well, especially if it pulls from a different credit bureau than the one that you just got declined from. So let's say that you got declined by American Express, who generally pulls your credit file from the TransUnion Credit Bureau here in Canada. Then, while you wait 3 months to apply for an American Express card again, you might consider applying for cards that will pull from the Equifax Credit Bureau. You might consider whether their offers are interesting to you to apply for in the meantime while you're waiting to apply for American Express again in the future. Now, if you want a full list of which Canadian credit card issuers generally pull from TransUnion and which ones generally pull from Equifax, then you can find that list on screen right now. And then you can also consult this page over on the Prince of Travel website where we have that list displayed for you. So that wraps up our discussion of why you might be declined for a credit card and what to do if you do get declined. The most important course of action is going to be to formally request a reconsideration with your credit card issuer and explain to them some of the mitigating factors on your credit file that might have caused that decline in the first place. Chances are that you might be able to push through the application and get that approval in the end, but otherwise, if you still get declined, then consider whether it makes sense to apply for the card with a different member of your household or credit card team. And otherwise, you're just gonna have to wait a little while, maybe 3 months before trying again. And in the meantime, consider applying for some of the other offers from the other credit bureau. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, please do hit the like button and subscribe to the Prince of Travel YouTube channel. Just click the subscribe button below the video. And hey, if I'm being honest, getting declined for a credit card is an inevitable step along this game we play. Everybody's gonna get declined at some point or another. So let me know in the comments, have you been successful with the reconsideration process in the past? What were your experiences like? Which credit card did you get the reconsideration done successfully? Let me know, and I'll see you in the next video. Different reasons why might that be the case. Why that might be the... Let's not use that in the bloopers.